When I was about 5 or 6, I remember sitting in the basement of our church on folding chairs and listening to Julie, who was a missionary from China, and she was sharing about her time there and what the Lord was doing in and through her. And I just remember thinking, wow, that's so cool. I wonder if God could use me in that way. I wonder if he would send me somewhere far away someday.
I was a pastor's kid, and I remember visiting missionaries coming into our church, even teams of missionaries who would come through and they would sing songs and they would share the gospel. And I always was really impressed with their willingness to go and to make disciples wherever they went. We were so impacted by missions that when we got engaged in 2005, the first thing that we did together as a newly engaged couple was we attended a missions conference.
I remember just holding our hands open before the Lord and saying, we'll do what you want us to do, God. Whether it's near or far, we don't know what it will look like, but we're ready to serve you in our marriage.
That's right, we'll go where you want us to go. And our first step was actually here in Chicagoland, because neither of us are from here, and we knew that we needed to get plugged into a church right away. And so we got plugged into a church in Naperville and started working for Christ and worshiping. And one of the first opportunities that we had to work for Christ together was to lead a mission team to Central Asia. We met so many inspiring people there.
Yeah, I think that was one of our favorite parts, seeing the families interact with one another and just seeing how their life was sacrifice and service to the Lord, and how they functioned outside of the U.S. and how they served the Lord overseas.
So we came home from that trip. We hadn't even been married a year yet, and we started getting ready to go. And we really didn't know where. So when we were in that time of just preparing for what was next, we heard some really exciting news that there was going to be a brand new church plant in Palos Heights. And we were working and living in the Palos area. And so when we heard about this, we thought, man, this is so cool. How awesome. Maybe God's calling us to help plant a church. And so we checked out their website, and I reached out to the pastor, Ryan Hall.
Ryan just made it clear that we should just hold our hands out before the Lord and let him take anything out that he wanted to, or put anything in that he wanted to. So we just were surrendered to do that.
Yeah, and we prayed about it and decided this was what God had next for us. And we felt like he took our sense of calling to missions and really planted it
in our community.
Yeah, just right in our community where we lived. And within the first year, I was actually invited to come on staff full-time as the worship pastor. But also part of my role was to be the pastor of missions. And so I had opportunities to figure out, well, how could our church take its first step in missions? And so in 2011, I actually led a group of young adults and high school students on our first ever mission trip to Glasgow, Scotland. And one of the things we did on that trip was we went on a prayer walk around the city, and we saw all the sights and also learned the history of the city there. And we prayed that the gospel would be preached and proclaimed with boldness, and that many people would become followers of Jesus. And also that many churches would be planted across Scotland, because this is an environment that's very secular. It's a post-Christian culture. And so I was so inspired by that and stirred up in my heart. And I came home from that trip and just was excited to continue taking opportunities to be involved in international church planting. And soon after that, our church got involved in other areas in Europe in helping plant churches. We helped plant a church in Brașov, Romania. And then we got a wider opportunity to train and support church planters and leaders across Eastern Europe.
We made so many sweet memories with some of the key leaders there who were just really sacrificing for the Lord and working hard to make disciples for Christ in a place that had rocky soil. I think we really were reminded how much they need to be encouraged and how much they need leader development.
And so by the fall of 2019, our Anchor Church pastors and elders attended a church conference with GCC. They're our church planting network. that we're a part of. And while we were there, Pastor Scott from Glasgow was there as well, and I set up a meeting with him and our elders to share their vision for church planting. And as he was describing their desire to plant more churches, I thought, in my heart, I thought, yes, this is it. This is what God is calling us to be a part of. And there still wasn't a really clear opportunity. I didn't know how or when, but I felt like God was directing our hearts and our steps to go. And so coming out of that conference in the fall of 2019, I began conversations with Pastor Ryan and our elders, and then that extended into the winter of 2020. And so we came up with a plan where in 2020 we would begin exploring that opportunity and other opportunities where God might be calling us. And then COVID hit, and we were locked down, and we weren't going to go anywhere in 2020. It became clear. But by that fall, we began conversations again, and it was then that I spoke with Pastor Scott in Glasgow, and he said, we have a specific need for a training pastor to come to help us train pastors, train leaders so that they can go plant churches, not just in Scotland and the UK, but into Western Europe. And it seemed like finally there was a clear opportunity, not just a desire to go, but a clear opportunity. So I talked with Pastor Ryan and our elders about that. And then we got COVID, and then 2 weeks later, what happened?
You got a heart attack.
I had a massive heart attack.
It was very difficult, obviously. It was very confusing, thinking long term, just thinking, Lord, what are you up to? We had these plans, and now we don't know if any of them will happen. We don't know if Mark will ever be able to sing again. So, we just had to once again hold our hands open before the Lord and just wait for his direction. But the Lord was so good and faithful.
It was clear that God was sustaining us and protecting us, and miraculously delivered my life.
Yeah.
Supported you through our church family in amazing ways. And so we came out of that time just wondering, well, what is next? It became clear very soon, though, that I was going to recover fully. My heart quickly moved out of heart failure into a stable place. There was no heart damage. Mm-hmm. We spoke with my cardiologist about where I was at, and he said, God clearly saved your life, and you should go. These plans that you have, you should do them. There's nothing standing in your way. And so we began fairly quickly to have these conversations again about pursuing this sense of calling. And so that's where we're at now. We sense that God is leading us to go and make disciples of all nations, and teaching them to obey everything that Jesus commanded us. And we're just so grateful for Anchor Church Payless, because we're a part of a church planting church, and we get to be sent out from this church to multiply the ministry that's going on here into Western Europe. We love you. We're so grateful for you, for your support, and for the opportunities that we've had to grow in Christ alongside of you. And we're looking forward to seeing that happen for years to come.